Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Sadness series. Today we're going to be focusing on the mask of depression. So before we get started, we're going to introduce ourselves just in case you missed the first episode. Right. And we also have another special guest here with us this week. So I'm going to start with our guest.
It's a sadness series, so should we not?
No, it's okay. Because we're overcomers. So it's okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just
tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
I'm Gina Jerkins. A little bit about myself. Well, I'm glad to be here today with Masadi, my friend, and Seneca, who has friends and everything. I don't really know what to say. Help me, Masadi.
So tell us a little bit about your family background, your family structure, a little bit about your educational background. And the reason that that's important for us is because we like for our audience to know that there's a wide variety of, women and people who deal with this issue. We don't want them to think that we're focusing on just one type of woman. So,
Okay, so my family, a little bit about them. There's a whole lot of us. There were 10 in my immediate family, my mom and my dad, and then 8 children. I have 2 brothers and I have 5 sisters, and all of our names starts with G. That used to be kind of a nuisance when we were younger, but it's fun now, and I love family. I love people. We tend to laugh and play a lot. It's a pretty happy group of people. I would say that we are. And I could talk about family for days. I have a host of nieces and nephews, and they're beautiful, and I enjoy them. They are absolutely the best part of life.
That's
family
awesome.
and people are the best part of life. Education, I am an Aggie twice, so we've got my undergraduate and master's from Texas A&M, and then a doctorate from the University of Houston, but I claim Aggies forever and a day. And that was an interesting journey to say the least, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have done that. And that's about all I want to say. Oh, and I like law and order.
Right.
I like the sense of most of the time good winning at the end. So, yeah.
Seneca?
Well, my name is Seneca Dunmore. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a college professional, international philanthropist, missionary. So that's a little bit about me, born and raised here in Houston, to Patricia and Wydell Dunmore. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and we're all here in Houston, and like you, Gina, very close-knit family. We're always laughing. We're always enjoying our time together. We do a lot of things together, so it's just a great thing.
All right. And I'm Masadi Porter, 2-time Aggie as well, bachelor's and master's from Texas A&M, as well as my doctorate from U of H, so this is my education twin. Grew up, as I said in the last video, I consider myself a only child with siblings. I have, sisters and brothers, and didn't, grow up with the family intact. There were, decisions and things that were made that caused us not to be able to be raised together. But we're working through all of that, and, family is becoming a priority in a lot of ways. So before we actually get started on this video, I want to do something really special, really quick. I want to tell Gina.
Oh, I love special.
I want to tell Gina thank you, but not only do I want to tell her thank you for being a guest, but tomorrow is her birthday. So
thank you.
I just wanted to say happy birthday. We'll open this later, but I just wanted you to
thank you.
Is good on you, Gina.
Thank you.
I just wanted to acknowledge that. And so also before we begin, so we're talking about the mask, taking off the mask and what that looks like as far as depression is concerned. So I don't know if y'all can tell, these 2 glamorous ladies, and then I have on no makeup. And that's basically just to symbolize taking off the mask. Because we wear makeup, we feel good, we look good, all of that. And so I'm daring today to be on film in front of I don't know who. No eyebrows or nothing, Jesus. Right. So here we are.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the questions. And so the first question I have is, why do we feel the need to wear a mask?
For me, it was, I felt pretty wearing the mask. I remember back in middle school and high school, I started wearing like weed young. And so to cut my hair and go natural was like a huge thing for me. But back in the day, it was like I felt cute, I felt pretty, I felt more accepted if I had all the luxurious hair in my head, if I had a face full of makeup, and you know, if I wore the trendiest clothes and things like that. So it was more of a cover up for just some of the internal issues that I was dealing with, not feeling like I measured up and I was as pretty as all the other women. And so it was just it was a cover up. It was a pretty cover up for me.
Okay, so your mask looked like external, like hair and makeup.
It did.
And things like that.
It was very external.
Okay, Gina, have you ever worn a mask, and what did that mask look like for you?
I grew up in a pretty religious, kind of strict home, so in a lot of ways, makeup was not a part of my early kind of girlhood days, unless I snuck to school to try to put some on. So I still struggle with making my eyebrows perfect. So it wasn't really makeup for me. But when I think about it, I think my mask would have been words. Because I grew up in a very kind of churchy environment. I'm very accustomed to someone saying, "How are you doing?" I say, "Fine, well, blessed."
Right, highly favored.
I know all of those answers, and the truth of it is I never really processed it as a mask. It's just the way that it was. I've grown to know that sometimes those words are used as filters to hide or to keep a distance between what I really feel and what I say.
Yeah.
But I would say words would have been my mask.
Okay, I think for me, attitude was my mask. That there would be times when I might come across as mean, or I might come across as some extreme type of emotion, but really it was hiding hurt and hiding depression. So me not necessarily speaking to you really had nothing to do with you. It had to do with the fact that I was experiencing something of my own. So you're just like, oh, that's what it was.
Right. Always spoke to me.
Yeah, but I think attitude and kind of the secluding myself. That's what, or busyness. That's another way that I believe that I masked things, was I always had something to do, and that was my way of keeping people out. I believe.
Right.
So how do we unmask in a way that's not going to bring our strength into question? And what I mean by that is a lot of us, all three of us, are in positions, whether of authority, respect. People look to us to have answers and things like that. And so I believe that we have sometimes felt like we don't have a right to be sad, or we don't have a right to want to take a break, or have a right to step back. But when we're talking about unmasking, how do we do that in a way that doesn't bring that into question?
Are you ready?
For me, it was just kind of changing my environment and putting myself around the right people. I remember when I moved to the East Coast back in 2007, and I was finishing with my master's, and it was like natural hair is the thing. Everybody had natural hair, and it was so embraced, and it was so loved, and it was, it was one of those things like everybody accepted you that way. And so it was an eye-opening experience for me, because coming from Houston, it was all about the latest bag and the latest shoes and the type of makeup you wore and the type of hair and things like that. So it was very external. But when I got there, it was more about who are you, and intelligence and education and vibing and that type of thing. So the external was, I guess you could say an add-on, an addition, to your beauty. It wasn't the whole thing. And so it was just kind of changing my environment and looking at things a little bit different, changing the people who I hung around. And so I was around people who thought I was pretty without makeup, thought I was pretty without the hair, and thought I was pretty without all the latest bags and things like that. So it just kind of worked out that way for me.
Okay.
I would think for me it was a reevaluation of my own self-assessment. Shifting the paradigm of how I evaluate myself. For me, it was easier to be okay with other people knowing or being aware that I wasn't okay if I was okay with knowing that about myself. And I think that's the greatest. That was the greatest point of unmasking for me. And I found almost like so when our most famous comedian made the mistake with the pageant. there was something about the acknowledgement of his era that made me celebrate him even the more. And I think people are like that in general. They're almost waiting for somebody to let them know that you don't have to be perfect and everything is not exceptional. And they're actually pretty accepting and celebratory when you're like, you know what, I'm having a difficult day. Like they were waiting to know that you have difficult days too. And so it wasn't so much people causing me to be masked, it was me. And the more I learned to be okay with my imperfections, the more accepting I became of me, and people give you what you put out about yourself.
That is so true.
Absolutely.
Do either of you think that you've ever been involuntarily unmasked? Involuntarily unmasked, like this happened. Yeah. Like I know definitely, you
I
know,
think so.
my biggest involuntary unmasking was a year ago today when I was admitted to the hospital. It was nothing I could do about it. I obviously was not at work, you know, for those days. I obviously was not at church for those days, you know, so it was something where even if only certain people knew, it still was an involuntary unmasking, because how do I hide that? You know, how do I say, oh, like, did I go on an impromptu vacation? No, that's not what happened, you know. So either of you think that you've ever been involuntarily unmasked?
I would say repeatedly at just different times. I think one of the biggest moments for me was when my dad passed, and serving in ministry and having done so many funerals. I guess I thought I kind of had that whole grief thing kind of mastered, and I knew what to do. And I remember telling my pastor when he called and asked how I was doing, I said horrible, or something other than fine, blessed, and highly favored. And I remember telling him it was just different. I've watched many a family get into the car and drive off, and you know, all of that stuff that happens in funeral processions. It was different being in the car myself. It was different seeing my name in the program, you know, all of those things. And so I just found myself at a place where you're not the onlooker and the supporter. You're the person who's grieving. But oftentimes in the roles that we play, there is no time out. So I would find myself still continuing with many of my responsibilities, but a wave of sadness would just come. And I know grief and I know sadness, so a wave would just come. And even now, there's still moments when it's like, I wasn't so okay with death, or so okay with transitions, and so okay. But I'm okay with realizing that I'm not okay. Yeah,
so that's how you responded, was just being okay with, I'm
at
not
times,
okay, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, at times. There were times when I tried to be something other than, because depending on if my nieces, nephews, my dad's grandchildren, whoever was around, I would go into the role of needing to be something because they're here and they need me to be. But then there were other times when I just couldn't control it, and you're crying and I'm crying too, and that's all I got right now, you know. So yeah, so unmasking kind of happens in those areas for me. And when our friend, so I had one of those today, because today was the day that she transitioned, went on into eternity, and I will always, I think, remember it because it was the day before my birthday, and so it still hits, and I'm driving, and that kind of comes, and it's like, yeah. So there are just moments when that type of feeling hits and you can't control it.
Right. I don't know if I've ever been involuntarily unmasked, but if you put me in the right situations where I'm with my friends or family and things, and you know, those emotions are being pricked, and you know, it just kind of naturally comes out. I'm one of those type of, I feed off of energy. I feed off of the energy of other people. So if they're vibing on a certain level, I'm kind of with them and vibing on it. So they're crying like Eugene, I'm crying. If they're happy, I'm happy. Yeah. If they're laughing, I'm laughing. So I kind of feed off of their energy. And so it's not really more so involuntary, but it's kind of a natural reaction to whatever their energy is.
Okay. So we have all experienced the unmasking part of things, where we've said, okay, you know what, I'm not going to pretend I'm okay. I'm not going to, you know, force myself. But then things happen. Life happens. What are the types of things that cause us to put our mask back on?
Well, I think for women like us who are, well educated and public figures, so to speak, because we're always in front of people, it's like you feel like you have a responsibility to keep on that mask. Like, people don't want to necessarily see the, the sad Masadi. They don't necessarily want to see the angry Gina. It's just kind of like you feel like you have to keep on that mask and you have to keep it all together because you're trying to keep everybody else together. And Gina brought up a great point, is that a lot of times people want to see that vulnerability. They like to know that, wow, she's human. Like, she doesn't have to, wear this steel, chest plate or whatever, that she's actually human. But for a long time I didn't know that. I just saw it as people are used to me a certain kind of way, and I always wanted to just kind of fit into the mold that they perceived that I was. And so anything outside of that was kind of scary for me. So I just wanted to kind of stay inside the box because it didn't disturb anybody. It didn't disturb their equilibrium, and so it didn't disturb mine. And so it was just one of those things, like, it was safe inside the box. I didn't want to draw outside the lines because I didn't know what outside the lines looked like. So,
and we do it in the name of protecting people,
right?
When really we're safeguarding ourselves. It's easier to fit the role of, I'm the responsible one, so I'm going to be the one that doesn't articulate what I really feel, or I'm going to be the one that doesn't cry, which doesn't really work for me. But it's easier to do that in the name of rescuing people, and it allows us to pretend with ourselves.
And then I think it also keeps you from having to answer questions. Because if I'm not the Masadi that I usually am, I don't feel like answering the questions. I don't feel like, wondering if they know what's going on. So I'm going to put my mask back on. And I'm going to, just try my best to be as close to normal, whatever normal looks like, try to be as close to normal as possible. And then I'll go home and, cry or whatever it is that I'm feeling. But because I don't feel like answering questions, or because I don't feel like going through people being in my business, then, sometimes those are the things that cause me to put my mask back on. And then, I think the assumption that most people won't understand. And some don't. And that's okay. But that assumption that most people, won't understand. So with that thought in mind of, well, people won't understand, or people will think differently of me, how can we best live a life that's as close to our most authentic self? How can we be as true?
My first answer was stop lying on people. I mean, stop using people as our scapegoat to not be true. I know different women, whatever their facet of life is, whether they're married or single with children or not, whatever that is. I mean, we can use people as our excuse for almost anything. Like, I can't eat healthy because I got to pick up my kids and we run through McDonald's, or I mean, we just use people for so many outs in our life, and that's inclusive of being true. Like, if there's a particular dream that you've always had, there's a whole lot of people we can blame for why we never pursued it. When the truth of it is, I didn't pursue it because I didn't pursue it. So goes it with this. I don't think there's much that we could say or do that people would be shocked by, with reality TV being as it is and people putting everything on social media. There's very little business really that somebody would find so entertaining or so strange. So I think oftentimes, even when it's that, it's like, well, I don't want people in my business. Your business is really not that interesting. We don't say we're sad because that's the facade that we choose to keep up with. It's not that someone would be so taken back because we're sad. I think just stop using people as our out would allow us to be our most authentic self. That's just my point.
I would definitely agree with that. I think we have to take more responsibility for how we feel and how we're being perceived, because it all falls back on us. Like, no one can make you do anything against your will, in terms of the whole depression and things like that. There might have been extenuating circumstances that have happened in your life, but ultimately it's a choice. It's a choice to say, you know what, I choose to be happy today. I choose to not hold on to this resentment and this anger and bitterness. I choose to move on with my life. And so we just have to take personal responsibility and not keep placing the blame, And then again, not keep blaming ourselves.
Yes.
You know, I think the biggest thing is that we, you know, on some aspects might forgive, you know, whoever has offended us, but then we don't learn how to forgive ourselves. And so we walk around with all this guilt and grief and shame and anxiety when we don't have to. It's like, just let it go, you know, because at the end of the day, most of the time they're not even thinking about it anymore. You're carrying that burden around now, you know, and you're feeling bad about it. And so you have all of this heaviness that you're carrying around, and it's just like you don't have, it's just like, put it down. You know, just put it down. So a lot of times it just falls back on us. We have to take responsibility and just own it. You know, you have to make a conscious decision every day to be at peace with self and to just run the race that you're racing and forgive yourself and be kind to yourself and not be so hard on yourself. I think that's one of the biggest issues that I deal with is like I'm just always so hard on myself. You know, I'm just always constantly beating myself down, and at the end of the day, it's like nobody really cares. It's, you know, we're all we're all dealing with our different issues and battles, and so I'm no different than anybody else. And so we place ourselves on these pedestals. For ourselves, and then when we don't hit the mark, it's like, you know, oh my God, I'm the worst person in the world. It's like, no, you're just human,
right? And it's okay. It's
okay.
like the rest of us knew that.
Yeah, you know, exactly. Everybody else knows that, and then it's like when they finally bring it to your attention, it's like, oh my God, okay, so they don't hate me, they don't, you know, so yeah.
I think owning what's available for your help, like. Again, without blaming people for not getting the help, like therapy. If you need therapy, go to therapy instead of wondering, okay, what are people going to think about if I go to therapy? Oh, I don't need to go to a therapist because she's going to be all in my business. Really? I mean, a therapist has heard so many things. Yola's story is not, it's not going to keep her up at night or have her call a tabloid. Trust, you know, and so it's just things like that when we don't take advantage of certain tools, and it's all because of what we think other people will think when really it's about us. And we should just own that if I need the assistance, if I need the help, if I need medication, if I need prayer, whatever that help looks like, it's my responsibility to secure it without blaming other people for not doing so.
Absolutely.
So if you all had one sentence that you could share either from your personal journey with the mask, with the depression, any of that you would share with our viewing audience to encourage them on this journey. Well, I won't say one sentence, but something brief.
Okay.
That you could share. What is it that you would share with them? So one thing that would encourage them on their journey, either with just depression, unmasking, any of that. What is that thing that you would share with them?
The first thing that comes to mind is a quote that Les Brown, who's a motivational speaker as well, always says, and he says that, you know, other people's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. So a lot of times it's perception, you know, it's like your reality is other people's perception, and what they perceive of you does not have to be your reality. So let that go. And, you know, stop focusing on what other people think and how they feel, because at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable and okay with self.
My sentence is going to have commas, semicolons.
Go right ahead.
Go ahead, Gina.
I was just thinking something really quite simple is that you're not alone. I mean, I know in ministry, a long time ago, one of our dear friends, Terry Theo Jones, said, the greatest trick of the enemy is to keep you in silence because you think that you're the only one, you know, and it didn't matter whatever you're facing, he tries to make you feel as if you are the only one. And so that's what I would want people to know, is that you're not alone, and there's so many people who face this issue, and the fact that you're not alone means that other people have overcome it, and they can too.
And I believe that what I would say is, in my journey, that I had to lose my mind to find my life.
You didn't say make a famous quote, Miss Sari.
I know.
I was trying to stumble on something.
like I really did. I had to lose my mind to find my life. Because that particular situation made me have to scrap some stuff completely, to rethink a lot of things, to let go of some stuff. to realize that I'm not the general manager of the universe, you know, and just say, you know what? And so there are things now that would have made me crawl up in a ball in a corner somewhere before, that now I'm like, girl, that's nothing.
Yeah.
You know? And so just taking off that mask, being authentic, being transparent has just literally changed my life. It's changed my life. And not just saying it.
Yeah.
But actually doing it. So do y'all have any other parting words before we give our audience their call to action?
So I'll just kind of piggyback off of what you shared about your own journey, because I know for me, coming to the facility where you were was one of the things that triggered my efforts or my decision to secure counseling for myself. And it was because we were so familiar and hang out and all this extra stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm really in one of these places and the people are talking to themselves and they're doing all of the things that I've only seen in the movies. And so but she's this tangible, for real person that I know. And so it made me even that much more present to the fact that we are not exempt. And it's important to pursue mental wellness. And so not only did it alter your life, but it helped to alter mine and other people who are part of your journey. So again, I would just encourage friends to share, to let other people in, because I shouldn't have to be in a facility to get the lesson because she was already in one. You know, just that it's that, like, we all help to make one another well. So
And that's actually a perfect segue into the call to action. Girl, you were in the spirit.
Right? Oh, Gina.
So our call to action for you today is to dare to take your mask off with someone new. We're not saying you have to tell them all your business, you know, but be transparent in a new way with someone that you haven't been transparent with before. And that's important because you never know who you're going to bless. You know, I never knew that sharing some of the things that I've shared would bless someone. I never knew that even, you know, me being where I was would, you know, help my dear friend to go and, you know, pursue some help for her, you know, for herself. So we just encourage you to go out there, be transparent in a new way with someone new, and make sure that you share it with us on the Purpose Promoter page, also on the Seneca Dunmore Inc. page. And congratulations again on your launch of Seneca Dunmore Inc.
It was fabulous.
We are on both Facebook and Instagram, so we want to know about your unmasking experience. We want you to tell us what you did, who you did it with, and what the result of that was. Or if you just want to tell us about the video or anything that you would like to share with us, then we are open to that. I also want to announce it on April 22nd. For those of you who are going to follow the series, we will be having an in-person dialogue. We're calling it The Dialogue.
Right.
We don't have the location yet, but if you just continue to follow us on the videos, then we will reveal that to you. And you'll have an opportunity to meet with Seneca and I, and hopefully all of our guests who will be a part of the series. And so just come out, let's talk, let's hang out, and have a good time. So I think that's it for today.
Yes.
So again, thank you for viewing episode 2 of the Sadness series. The Sadness series, The Mask of Depression, and have a very, very blessed day.
be well.